This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com. Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
All right. It's that time of week again where we have our contestant Joe take our Conduit for Action weekly quiz.
I've been demoted from producer to contestant.
You're now our contestant. I'm your host, Paul Harrell, as we go over the latest Conduit for Action quiz. Now, this particular quiz is still in line and in keeping with the Knowledge is Power Arkansas Government 101 series of quizzes. This one over the executive branch. Now, Joe, I have a few updates before we get to the quiz. Some things to go over because this segment has just been rebranded a little bit.
This is the CFA game show.
All right. So, yeah, the Conduit for Action game show. Here it is. All right. So, when you hear this sound, Joe, it means you're out of time. Okay, that's going to mean that we're going to need an answer, okay?
I immediately don't like this because this gives you an arbitrary time or whatever. Joe looks like he's thinking the most. Let's mess with him.
Okay, well, listen. If you this is life, okay? All right. If you get an answer correct, when we go back over the answers, you will hear this sound. Okay. Now, if you get an answer wrong, you're going to hear this sound. Okay, so that's what you need to know going in. All right. So here we go. Question. Now go ahead and click on it. Knowledge is power. Let's go to the first one. The executive branch is one of 3 branches of Arkansas government. Arkansas Constitution states which offices there will be in the executive branch. These are referred to as constitutional officers and are elected by the people every 4 years. The role of the executive branch is to implement the law, but they do not make the law. They may make regulations and rules, but these can be overridden by statute from the legislative branch. Under the Arkansas Constitution, the governor has, quote, the supreme executive power of this state, end quote. Take this quiz below to learn the structure and practice of the Arkansas executive branch. Now, interestingly enough here, Joe, just for all of our listeners back out there, you can go to conduitforaction.org and you can take the quiz yourself. Question number 1. How many state constitutional offices does Arkansas have? Examples, like the lieutenant governor or the governor. Is it A, 3, B, 5, C, 7, or D, 10? And take time and think it out, Joe.
Okay, so it's I think there's more than 3. Because it already gives 2, which were already in my head, the governor and lieutenant governor. And then Secretary of State, because we had Mark on yesterday. And then I'm pretty sure Leslie Rutledge is a constitutional officer as well, which means that there's going to be more than 3. I'm going to go actually, I'm stuck between 5 and 7.
All right. That sound, unfortunately, means that you are out of time. Going to need an answer, Joe. I'm going to need an answer. 3, 5, 7, or 10. I'm going to see. I have no enforcement mechanism. have no enforcement mechanism.
I have the power here.
Gonna need an answer, Joe.
I want to go with 5.
Going with 5. Okay. All right. So, question number 2. Which of the following are the constitutional offices for Arkansas? Choose as many as you think you are. Now, let's go over this because this is interesting, and you can't go back and change your answers, Joe. Go ahead and relax it out. All right. Is it the governor? You can check the governor, the chancellor, the attorney general, the land commissioner, the secretary of agriculture, economic development commissioner, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, treasurer, auditor, or chief justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court. Those are your options.
Okay, so I got governor already out of the way. There's not a chancellor. The supreme chancellor. There's not. That doesn't exist.
The supreme chancellor.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program today. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. Really glad that you're with us. The phone number, if you want to call us or text us today, is 870-275-9799. I want to get to here in just a minute some absolutely abysmal poll numbers from the governor. The Governor Asa Hutchinson, his polling has tanked, and I'm going to prove it to you. We've got the Talk Business and Politics in Hendrix College poll. We're going to compare what's happened over the last year with his poll numbers, which really essentially leaves him vulnerable to a Republican challenger, and I'll get to that here in a minute. I also want to talk about how the Republican establishment is now spinning these numbers or trying to deflect this bad news and this obvious vulnerability, and you're not going to believe it when you see it. But before we do that, I would just like to wish everyone out there a very, very happy Reformation Day. That's right. This is the anniversary. October 31st, 1517 is when Martin Luther nailed his famous 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Church in Germany. Now, some of you might be saying, "Oh, Paul, it's Halloween today." And so, yeah. There's a theology professor over at Christianity.com by the name of Justin Holcomb who has written a piece entitled "The Connection Between Halloween and Reformation Day." And I just want to share that with you before we do anything else today because, well, Joe, I mean, I don't know about you, and I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade. You do what you want to do. I've never been a big fan of Halloween. I never have. Something about it, I just never really enjoyed it, especially the commercialization angle of it. It's just always kind of been like, yeah. Now, that's not to say, look, you celebrate Halloween all you want to, and it's not to say I don't, quote, celebrate Halloween. I mean, I guess I like a good hayride, but that's as far as it goes to me, you know?
Yeah, as a kid, the only thing about Halloween I enjoyed was hanging out with my cousins all day. And
the candy's nice.
Yeah,
you know?
Candy's good.
We do have some candy corns at the house. I've had a few.
But I've never seen the appeal of Halloween.
Yeah,
Just never have.
And
even as a kid, I didn't like it.
And my wife actually loves it. So anyway, but it's actually Reformation Day. And there's this great article.
To be honest, is a much better holiday.
It's a much better holiday, yes. The connection between Halloween and Reformation Day, though, this article is very interesting. Halloween, October 31st, is celebrated by millions of people each year with costumes and candy. Halloween's deepest roots are decidedly pagan. Despite the Christianized name, its origin is Celtic and has to do with summer sacrifices to appease Samhain, the lord of death and evil spirits. Those doing the pagan rituals believe that Samhain sent evil spirits abroad to attack humans, who could escape only by assuming disguises and looking like the evil spirits themselves. Christians tried to confront these pagan rites by offering a Christian alternative, All Hallows Day, that celebrated the lives of faithful Christian saints on November 1st. In medieval England, the festival was known as All Hallows, hence the name Halloween, All Hallows Eve, for the preceding evening. You compare that with Reformation Day, which is October 31st, commemorates Luther's posting of the 95 Theses on the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany, on October 31st, 1517. This act triggered the Reformation, as they were immediately translated and distributed all across Germany in a matter of weeks. The Protestant Reformation was the rediscovery of the doctrine of justification, that is, salvation by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. It was also the protest against the corruption within the Roman Catholic Church. False doctrines, some say biblical illiteracy, superstition, monks, priests, bishops, popes, that sort of thing, okay? Things like treasury of merit, indulgences, purgatory, salvation through good works instead of faith. Then you get to All Saints' Day. All Hallows Day, or All Saints' Day, November 1st, was first celebrated on May 13th of 1609 when Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome to the Virgin Mary. The date was later changed to November 1st by Pope Gregory III, who dedicated a chapel in honor of All Saints at the Vatican Basilica. And then in 1837, Pope Gregory IV ordered its church-wide observance. Its origin lies earlier in the common commemorations of Christian martyrs. Over time, these celebrations came to include not only the martyrs, but all saints. During the Reformation, the Protestant churches came to understand saints in its New Testament usage as including all believers, and reinterpreted the Feast of All Saints as a celebration of the unity of the entire church. Then he writes about All Souls Day. All Souls Day, the Day of the Dead, is normally celebrated primarily by Roman Catholics on November 2nd. This is a day dedicated to prayer and almsgiving in memory of ancestors who have died. People pray for the souls of the dead in an effort to hasten their transition from purgatory to heaven by being purged and cleansed from their sins. Then you get to the treasury of merit. Spiritually earnest people were told to justify themselves by charitable works, pilgrimages, and all kinds of religious performance and devotions. They were encouraged to acquire this merit, which was at the disposal of the church, by purchasing certificates of indulgence. This left them wondering if they had done or paid enough to appease God's righteous anger and escape his judgment. This was the context that prompted Martin Luther and his desire to refocus the church on salvation by grace through faith on account of on account of Christ by imputation of Christ's righteousness to us. To those spiritually oppressed by indulgences and not given assurance of God's grace, Luther proclaimed free grace to God's true saints. He said this, quote, Martin Luther, God receives none but those who are forsaken, restores health to none but those who are sick, gives sight to none but the blind, and life to none but the dead. He does not give saintliness to any but sinners, nor wisdom to any but fools. In short, he has mercy on none but the wretched, and gives grace to none but those who are in disgrace. Therefore, no arrogant saint or just or wise man can be material for God, neither can he do the work of God, but he remains confined within his own work and makes of himself a fictitious, ostensible, false, and deceitful saint, that is, a hypocrite. End quote, Martin Luther. So instead of the treasury of merit that was for sale, Martin Luther, again, on this Reformation Day, he protested that the true treasure of the church is the most holy gospel of the glory and grace of God. This was Luther's desire for Reformation Day. Again, that's written by Justin Holcomb, who teaches theology. And it's up at Christianity.com. So on this Reformation Day, folks, happy Reformation Day. Also, happy Halloween to everybody else. But it's an interesting history, right? Certainly interesting history. Do you think that it's a coincidence that both of these ideas, concepts, that really seem counterintuitive? They certainly are ironic. Is it a coincidence that they are both observed on the same day or around the same day? I don't know. I mean, that's a question for you. I think not, especially when one in our culture is way more emphasized than the other. Okay, let's move on now. And I appreciate your patience, but sometimes I just got to get stuff off of my chest. Okay? Let's move on now to Asa Hutchinson's poll numbers. Did you see this Talk Business piece? Joe, throw this up there for them. We got Talk Business and Politics, Hutchinson, Cotton, Bozeman, under 50% with job approval ratings. Now, I'm not going to spend much time, I'm not going to spend any time on Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman. I want to focus on Asa Hutchinson because that's the one that, as far as potential primaries, this is what we're dealing with right now. And I find it very interesting. The poll numbers are not good for Asa. And going over the most recent ones, overall, Governor Asa Hutchinson's approval rating now is at 45%. Right, and 59% among Republicans. Yeah, go ahead. Let's look at this. I made this graphic, and again, it's based on Talk Business and Politics in Hendrix College. You can see that we want to give them credit, and it's there on that graphic that you see now. This poll was conducted in February of 2017. One poll was, and overall, he had a approval rating of 53% and a 72% approval rating among Republicans. In April, he had a 56% approval rating and a 76%. In April, 76% approval rating among Republicans. But in October of this year, Talk Business and Politics in Hendrix College releases that overall a 45% approval rating and only 59% among Republicans. Now, this is substantial in many ways. First of all, Governor Asa Hutchinson is losing popularity, and the first thing to figure out is why. Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is? What has happened between April and October of this year? Well, I can tell you personally that we have more listeners of this program now than we did in April of 2017. Now, that is just, indirect circumstantial evidence, but I can tell you that for sure we have more people who have realized what's going on. We have more people who are realizing that Asa tried to raise your taxes, succeeded in raising your taxes, and when the tax increases that he wanted failed, he's pledged to bring them back up again in the future. We are getting that information out. We're getting the economic reality of Arkansas out, the fact that we can't quit spending. We're getting the reality that we have Republicans who are passing laws in your name, and they're implementing an agenda that's the opposite in some cases of what they campaigned on. That certainly has happened from April of this year to October of this year. Now, in the context of the program as well, I can tell you that we've secured in the last year 2 new affiliates, one out of Mountain Home and one out of Fort Smith. We're now on weekly 6 affiliates, and that would be 11 AM stations and 12 FM stations. Am I getting that right? Let's see, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 12. 12 FM, 11 AM signals. And so we are growing in many ways, and more people are consuming this. And so I certainly would say that a lot of this has to do with people figuring out who Governor Asa Hutchinson is. Okay, I kind of have analyzed these numbers a little bit more as well. Since April, Asa has dropped in his overall approval numbers by 11 points, and he's dropped, get this, that's a total of 17 points among Republicans since April. Now, that is huge. And when you look at this stuff, now here's the key. You can come back to me, Joe. Here's the key on this. You know what Donald Trump is polling right now? Donald Trump is polling at 79% among Republicans. 79% among Republicans. So Asa's at 59% among Republicans. Donald Trump is at 79%. We're talking about a 20-point gap here. And you may be saying, Paul, how do we know? How do we know that this is significant? You're telling us it's significant? Well, all you got to do is look at the reaction. I'm going to show you, when we come back, the reaction so far from Republican establishment protectioners or protectionists is what I should say. It's staggering. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
This is Mother Government. My people. The promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works, Obamacare, private option has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues, from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are two matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody. Fighting dependency on government so Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
On our Facebook Live feed, I want to welcome James. He's watching on Facebook Live. James, he says he's a first-time listener. Well, we appreciate it very much, James. What you're listening to is, content information that you're not going to get anywhere else in the state of Arkansas on a daily broadcast. If you want more of this stuff in print, I would suggest you go over to conduitforaction.org and read away. We're dissecting the fact that Asa Hutchinson is in a support free fall. His numbers have tanked since April. Overall, among Arkansans, Asa is now down 11 points. Among Republicans, he's down 17 points since April, according to Talk Business Politics and Hendrix College. Only 59% of Republicans approve. Now, if you think about it in terms of who's going to turn out in a primary, is it going to be that 59% or is it going to be, I don't know, the other 40%? I'm telling you right now, those who are most displeased with Asa and don't approve of his job, they're the ones that are going to be more likely to show up and vote in a Republican primary if, in fact, Jan Morgan does decide to run and take her, take her situation out of the exploratory committee phase. But what has, in response to these numbers, what has the establishment done? Let's go to State Representative Lori Rushing first. This isn't a response. This is panic mode. They're in panic mode. I mean, you want to know why Governor Asa Hutchinson is trying to get Jan Morgan disinvited from county committees like Mississippi County Committee? You want to know why that's happening? It's because they've got numbers worse than this internally. I can promise you that. They have numbers worse than this internally. What does Lori Rushing say? Look at this. She writes, awesome to see Governor Hutchinson ranks at the top of the most popular governor, coming in at number 3. He is doing a great job. They link to a Morning Consult post that ranks America's most and least popular governors. Interesting, okay? So we have bad poll numbers, and so we start to post on our social media page, State Representative Lori Rushing. She starts to post. Go to the next slide, Joe. I want to introduce you. This is a guy by the name of Matthew Sewell. Matthew Sewell on Twitter writes that he's an Emmy Award-winning producer at Fox 16 News and KARK 4 News. This is what he decided to tweet. Next tweet says this. He tweets the exact same thing. That's interesting. State Representative Lori Rushing and somebody who is a protector, a gatekeeper of state-run media, tweets the same thing. Asa Hutchinson is the 3rd most popular governor in the U.S., according to @Morning Consult. Now, what's funny is this piece was retweeted 90 times. Going to the next one. The next tweet here. This is the retweet. Now, look at this. You have, who's this first one? You have Scott Brewster, who's another. He's from KNWA, Fox 24 News, so another media gatekeeper, producer there. Then, of course, J.R. Davis retweets this. J.R. Davis is the communications director for Governor Hutchinson, but keep scrolling down. Who is this? This is an Arabic name. Who is that? Uber Saw 1. Then you have Uber Saw 7. Uber Saudi. What is Uber Saudi? Why are these people, what are these Arabic people that are retweeting, and then Charlie Collins in the mix? What are all these Arabic names retweeting Governor Asa Hutchinson? Now that's interesting. That's very interesting. Joe, what's on the far side, the very far tab? Go to that one. Pull that one up before we're up against a hard break here. The far tab. The Wikipedia. A Twitter bot. A Twitter bot is a type of bot software that controls a Twitter account via the Twitter API. The bot software may authorize, it may do stuff like retweet, liking, following, unfollowing, or direct messaging other accounts. The automation of Twitter accounts. Interesting that we have people, bots, who... Now, what has happened is there's a software, there's some sort of Asa Hutchinson, he's getting creamed on social media. He gets 90 retweets from people who aren't even real, from Twitter accounts that don't represent actual citizens or voters. You don't think they're scared? They're worried about you finding out the truth. And that's Asa's big government progressive liberal agenda. Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Of the Galactic Federation.
Yeah. The Attorney General.
Galactic Empire, rather.
Yeah, already kind of... Yeah.
So you're saying that the 5 constitutional officers are Governor, Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of
I
State.
haven't picked my 5th one yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Oh, that's good because that sound means that you're out of time, and we're going to need an answer. We're going to need an answer.
That's my answer. I'm sticking with what I had before with 5. And I'm going with that.
All right. Question number 3. Who is the head of the Arkansas executive branch?
The governor, Asa Hutchinson.
Okay, there we go. Question number 4, unfortunately, to the dismay of many true conservatives. Question number 4, according to the Arkansas.gov website, this is good. I like these are the questions. This is the real meat and potato questions right here. Very educational stuff by Conduit. According to the Arkansas.gov website, how many commissions does Arkansas state government have? Examples like the Arkansas Economic Development Commission or the Ethics Commission.
Okay, so I'm going to go with what I know about...
Does that stress you out, that music, at all?
A little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go with what I know about the government
out now. Sound it out
that resides over me. Definitely not 10. I feel like 27 is too small. I'm going to go 42.
All right, so your options here are 10. Go back up. Your options here are 10, 27, 42, and 53. So you're saying that there are 42 commissions under the executive branch.
I feel like 10 is way too little for the people that have been put in power over the last however long. The 27 still seems a little small to me. 42 seems about right. 53.
You think 53 is too much? Okay, all right.
Well, not necessarily too much. It's just 42. I feel like is just a good.
Just going with the old
number.
ACT advice and just picking C.
No, that's just a good middle of the ground number.
Okay, all right. What do we have here? Question number 5. According to the Arkansas.gov website, how many departments does Arkansas state government have? Departments. So this is different than commissions. Examples of departments would be like the Department of Education, the Emergency Management Department, stuff like that. Sound it out now, Joe. Think it out. Sound it out.
Cool.
Is it A12, B32, C40, or D47?
Again, operating off the same assumption from the last question, I'm actually going to go 47 with this one.
Okay, so you're going with D.
I feel like we have a lot of unnecessary departments.
Okay, it's a good thing because that sound means that you are out of time.
See what I said, ladies and gentlemen? Arbitrary moments with Paul just...
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The phone number, call us, Texas, 870-275-9799. We've been going over these poll numbers from Talk Business and Politics and Hendrix College. Real quick, throw the graphic up there for those who are just now joining us. You've got to understand this. In February, Talk Business did this poll, and it showed that Asa had 72% among Republican support, job approval. In April, he had 76% approval among Republicans. But now in October, it's down all the way to 59% approval, showing that he is for sure vulnerable. Now, this explains everything. This explains why the governor wants to have his paid government employee, Doug Smith, okay, write emails to the Mississippi County Republican Party asking them to essentially not have Jan Morgan speak at their event. This is why there's pressure that gets applied to Baxter County. This is why there's going to be pressure applied at every aspect of this. This is why, in my opinion, Craighead County disinvited her. Now, to Craighead County's credit, they're re-inviting her. They have, I believe, are rescheduling her to come back. And I think that's because people in the party are tired of getting pushed around. This Talk Business and Politics article does make the mistake of saying that Asa does have control of the state party. I'm telling you right now, he's worried. And if Dr. Jay Barth were listening to this program, he'd know that we have tangible evidence that he doesn't have total control over the state party because people actually want conservatism. They don't want Asa Hutchinson's version of it, or they don't want progressive liberalism and have Asa call it republicanism or conservatism. They don't want that. So look at these numbers. This is big stuff. This is a sign, ladies and gentlemen, that they're now very well aware that you know. And Asa is vulnerable, and it's because you are discovering the truth of what's really going on out there. Now, Joe, if we can go back to the Twitter and pull this up for me, I would appreciate it. So here are the retweets. So the protectionist media and people who are trying to, essentially skew the truth, hide the truth, they're now out there today, and they're tweeting positive stories about Asa, saying, look, Asa Hutchinson is the third most popular governor in the world. Now, we've had stories like this in the past, right? Where and is this? I mean, I know he's been on the list before, and so this gets retweeted. It's out there by State Representative Lori Rushing. Then I guess a media guardian out there as well, Matthew Sewell, and it gets retweeted. It says 90 times. But as we scroll down, we'll find that this is strange. Who is Uber Saw 1? Arabic symbol, Arabic symbol, Arabic symbol. Okay? Who is Uber Saudi? Arabic symbol, Arabic symbol. See the Arabic right up there next to the follow? What does that even mean? What is this? Who is Uber Saw 10? Who is Uber Saw 8? Who is Uber Saw 5? Who is Uber Saudi or Uber Saw 3? These are all variations of something called Uber Saudi. Now, I don't know. Is Uber Saudi Arabia a thing? Does Saudi Arabia have Uber? Can we find that out at some point? I mean, these are all people who are this is all Arabic. I can't read that. I don't know what that says. Here is Maria de la Lutz writing Hecha en Mexico. Then we have Favio Hernandez, some guy named Favio Hernandez who describes himself as, quote, music, end quote. He retweets a post about it. I'm sure that guy's really interested in Arkansas politics. Old Favio Hernandez, really interested in Arkansas politics. And then we have Yaya, Arabic symbol, Palma. I mean, who are these people? Who are these people? So we clicked on a couple of them. Let's go to the next one. Okay. So we see that this person that retweeted Asa Hutchinson, that is at Uber SA1, Arabic symbol, joined Twitter in September of 2017 and has already tweeted 5,947 times.
Hold on. Paul, when did you pull this up on the computer?
Earlier today.
What time? What time do you think you pulled it up?
Let's see. I think I was here at the studio about 1 o'clock. So let's say about 1 o'clock.
So it's been 3.5 hours, and they've tweeted 125 times since then.
Are you serious?
It says okay. So because,
I see it. Yeah, right there. They've tweeted 125 times in 3 hours. It's right there on the screen. Okay, so that's what these accounts are used for. And somebody is running Asa Hutchinson's social media and doing a terrible job. Terrible job if you want him to be governor for another 4 years. They're doing a fantastic job if maybe you don't. Okay. What's the next one? What's the next person that retweeted this? Okay. Okay, so it's been 3 hours. They've retweeted 71 times. They joined in October of 2017 and have already tweeted 4,584 times. So let me just tell you something. That's just, we know that these are bots. We know that somebody is trying to get Asa Hutchinson positive publicity on Twitter because nobody will do it for him organically. Nobody will actually do this. This is what you call AstroTurf. And I'm just going to go ahead and predict that Asa Hutchinson is going to lose at this game. Jan Morgan reaches 1 million plus people on her social media accounts. Okay, so if Jan decides to run, you shouldn't even be attempting. In my opinion, you shouldn't even be attempting to compete with her on this level. Might as well just stick with Walmart. Although I guess, there's only so many people that vote. I mean, there's only so many people that, I don't know, how many votes is that? Like 3, 4? Maybe the board, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you should try it. Just keep trying it. But don't be, but don't get caught. Don't get caught. I mean, I'm not the only one who thinks this, by the way. Austin Kellerman, who is, he works at KARK News. Okay, he's the news director at KARK. Listen to what Austin Kellerman says. He says, these are some of the most sketch retweets I've ever seen. Now, first of all, most of them are from Saudi Arabia. Now, you would think, right, with as many times as Asa Hutchinson's gone to China, trying to give away our taxpayer dollars in the form of corporate welfare to try to get some company to finally create jobs over here in the next 75 years, we would at least get some Chinese bots. But no, we're attracting air. Or maybe, who knows? I mean, Russian bots are all the thing, right? I mean, gosh, Manafort's been indicted. Maybe we have maybe there's collusion between the Asa Hutchinson campaign and in these bots who are now retweeting all of Asa's stuff. Who, I don't know. Maybe you never know. You never know. Tell me what you think. Give me a phone call. Send me a text message. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. John on Facebook. Uber is in Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Joe. So there is Uber. It exists in Saudi Arabia.
It's from Uber's official website. It's all the countries.
Okay. So it is there. But here's the thing. Are there any women drivers using Uber? No, there's... I think they started to let women drive recently, by the way. I think so. I think I read something about that. John on Facebook writing, Asa already has a future job if he wants it. A lawyer for Walmart because he is already under their control and the control of Google. Interestingly. See, we have Dawn on Facebook writing, think you're all over this and correct, Paul. Well, I appreciate that because, look, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. And the mainstream media is doing everything they can. The protectors are doing everything they can to shield people from the truth. But, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the optics of this, not just this, but you have a sitting Republican governor that has over and over again put out that he is the standard. He is the party standard. He's trying to control things. And he put some very good politicians, or let's say he put some good people in really tough situations. I know for a fact he did. He told them that you either vote for a tax increase, or we're going to say you hate the troops on the military retirement pay tax cut exemption or tax exemption. I mean, putting some people in really awkward positions. And we're talking about true conservatives. We're talking about middle-of-the-road people that do agree with the party platform. They just don't agree with it enough to go against Asa. They passed a tire tax. They created a brand-new tax on tires. They passed and created a brand-new tax on digital downloads. They tried to pass an unconstitutional internet tax. He's vowed to do it again. They tried to raise your gas tax, okay? I mean, Asa would not support the school choice bill at first. Now, his office would deny what I'm saying is true, and he did officially come out and support it at the very, very end. I mean, but it failed. It failed. We couldn't, you couldn't get school choice through, which is a basic principle on the platform of the Republican Party. They tried to freeze Medicaid expansion, an out-of-control welfare program. that Asa Hutchinson has seen grown under his leadership for able-to-work adults, most of whom have no children, no dependents, over 50%. It's grown, and he's refused to put a cap on it. He's refused to end it and lead us out of this mess of the called Obamacare being implemented here in Arkansas. Now, so he's done all these things, and he's told people like me and detractors like you that you don't matter, and nobody's going to find out anyway. Nobody's going to find out that I'm violating the platform. Essentially, this is what he's done with his actions, that everything's fine, and I am, like John Brummett said in his article defending Asa, I'm plenty Republican enough, plenty conservative enough. Something has happened, though. Something has happened. His employee making $50,000 a year, working for the governor's office, Doug Smith, fires off an email trying to get Jan Morgan disinvited from the Mississippi County Republicans. We have the email. It shows that Asa isn't ignoring Jan. Now, if Asa were actually doing well, and I promise you he has poll numbers that are much worse than this, if Asa were actually doing well, he would have ignored the prospect of a Jan Morgan candidacy. But instead, he didn't. He had Doug Smith do what he did. He's put pressure everywhere else. They opened their party headquarters a couple of weeks ago, their brand new party headquarters. And folks, they were getting together, and you know who they were talking about? They were talking about you. The establishment was talking about you. They might not have known it, but they were. They were talking about you and what they're going to do. Republicans who are in office now, they got elected, or they watched their new freshman-ish colleagues get elected by running against Democrats because their records were so bad. They watched it happen, and now they're worried because they have records and they're bad. In many cases, they're worse because they actually campaigned on doing the opposite of what they did. At least the Democrats, they'll admit, yeah, I cast that pro-abortion vote because I agreed with Governor Mike Beebe back in the day. At least they'd admit it, and they lost because of it. Anyway, they've got records to stand on now, and they're worried. They're worried about primary challenges. They're worried about the power structure really shifting in the state. And I think you guys are sharing this. You guys are sharing programs like this. You're sharing Conduit for Action articles like crazy about what's really going on down in Little Rock in your name and in my name. And I think that's what's contributed to a 17-point decline among Republicans from April to October in his approval rating. 17 points he's lost from April to now. And it's because people are sick of it. And it takes a time. I mean, we worked for so long to convince people that the Democrats had an agenda and ideas that were contrary to what the people of Arkansas wanted. And it's hard. It was really hard. And then people elect Republicans and say, well, I'm done with that. I can just wipe my hands with it. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And yet, no reform was implemented. And instead, Asa increased spending his first year $130 million. He increased spending his second year $142 million. He increased spending his third year $165 million. And now they want to talk about tax reform. That's their buzzword, that they promise they're going to cut our taxes. First of all, we have a spending problem, and we have obligations that we can't pay for in the future. So they will try to raise your taxes, but call it a tax cut. That is what's coming. Mark my words. That is what is coming. Oh, and it's I see some people on our Facebook page who have had it. Matter of fact, Jan Morgan is watching and is listening to our. She just said we don't have a revenue problem in this state. We have a spending problem. Jan, if you're listening, I didn't read that and then say it. That's weird. I said it, and then I read it. I was like, oh, well, she just said what I just said. Anyway. Hey, folks, the telephone number is 870-275-9799. Give us a phone call, text message, sound off on Facebook Live if you want. I do want to encourage you. I know you've seen the ads, but if you think this program is of value, if you think the information here is something unique that you're not getting anywhere else, I would encourage you, please, just go to patreon.com. Consider partnering with us $5, $10, $25 a month for extra content, and that we're constantly making better. We shot our Wednesday weekly video this morning. It'll be out tomorrow, and feel free. If you think it's a value, you want that extra video a week. It's only $5 a month, and then the features and benefits go up from there. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. We're going to take a break and be back in just a moment. The Liberty Machine rolls on next.
This is for all you big government establishment Republicans out there. Hope you're listening. I keep a close watch on these votes of mine. I keep my finger in the wind all the time. I vote big government, and you will pay with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, there's always an excuse not to shrink government. It's much easier just to toe that line. I find it very easy to be rhino blue. I find I'm not alone when failing to come through. Yes, big government, I'm a fool for you. 'Cause every time I toe that line. Legislative sleight of hand would be an accurate description. Or you could just say, they can't quit towing that party line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I'll vote big government both day and night. And act like I'm shocked when it all comes to light. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, the phrase toe the line is the equivalent of toe the mark, both of which mean to conform to a rule or standard. You could also call it the status quo. Tax and spend, I'm always on your side. I love writing government checks that I cannot hide. Buying people's votes always turns the tide. 'Cause every time I toe the line. The Oxford Dictionary word histories. The idiom toe the line, from an athletics analogy, originated in the early 19th century. I hope you don't watch these votes of mine. Hope you don't see through the lies and slime. 'Cause I plan on spending with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, toeing the line is what the folks down in Little Rock call progress.
PHP Parody.
All right, we have one text message here. Hey, please remember, I know it's tough. Please give us your name and your county. I do a terrible job of reminding you. I'd love to know where you're listening from and your name. For those of you that are texting in, it's a little easier for those of you on Facebook who are writing in. We have a text message that Uber is German for super, as in super Saudi. That's pretty funny right there. I mean, honestly, what do you have to do? What kind of mindset do you have to have if you're a governor of Arkansas? You're supposed to be just above primary. Your power's secure. You have the mainstream media protecting you. The mainstream media, they say nothing for the most part but positive things about what a great pragmatic governor you are, which is really a code word for a progressive. And but then you're using some sort of bot software to make sure that you can play good enough defense to promote that you're, according to one poll, the third most popular governor in the nation, to try to distract from the fact that your poll numbers came back and your approval rating has plummeted since April by 17 points among people that you have to get you elected in a Republican Party primary, namely Republicans. Okay? How does that happen? How does that happen? Again, the phone number 870-275-9799. He's going to have a tough time. That's what I'm telling you. A very tough time with all of this. I saw these poll numbers last night as soon as we got off the air. I was shocked. I really was. I was shocked. I had people calling me. I had people saying, "Hey, listen, I think this has a lot to do with more people consuming the program, whether it's on the live stream, whether it's on our terrestrial affiliates across Arkansas, whether it's people going back and listening to the podcast or going back and listening to our archives, whatever it is." And I mean, it's undeniable, folks. We've seen those numbers go up in the last since April. I mean, we have. We have seen our show continue to grow. The message, the stuff that we're getting out there, we've seen it continue to grow. And I think it's just pretty amazing between what I'm trying to do, which is just give people the truth on a daily basis about what's going on in Little Rock in their name. Between that and you've got efforts like, what Conduit is doing, Conduit for Action is doing. Here in just a minute, coming up at 5 o'clock, we're going to have a Conduit for Commerce policy spotlight on tax reform and tax relief, and their recommendations is really good stuff. You don't want to miss that, by the way. But you do need to understand the game. We laid the game out for you yesterday, and the game is this. The elephant and the chickens. The elephant in the room is Medicaid expansion. It's a welfare program for able-to-work adults, many of them who don't work. It costs a ton of money, and we got to have money to pay for it. They don't want to admit that we can't afford it, and so the chickens are coming home to roost. The chickens in this situation are all of our financial obligations. So nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. And so and because of that, they don't want to do anything about it. The chickens are coming home to roost. And what that means is they're now moving on, and instead of talking about how they have messed up and how they have over-obligated us as taxpayers, they want to talk about tax cuts and tax reform. Tax reform is really the operative phrase. They've hired a liberal consultant, a lifelong Democrat, $300,000 a year to advise them. On his Twitter, Randy Bauer said that tax cuts are not tax reform. They want to raise your taxes. It's the only way they can. Folks, this is no longer speculation on my part. They have to secure more money from you and increase the amount of money that goes to the government. That is a tax increase. They will call it a tax cut. They will cut your income tax. They will cut this. They'll mess around with this bracket. But they will secure more money going to the government because they will not admit we don't have the money to pay for Obamacare and Arkansas Works, private option, whatever they want to call it now. They won't admit it. They will not end it. They will not lead us out of it. The only solution is more money from us in their eyes. But they know they've run against that. So they will find a way. Folks, this is not a new game for them. This is the same game. In 2013, they said Obamacare Medicaid expansion wasn't because they called it the private option. In 2015, they said the private option's toxic. We'll change the program and we'll reform it and we'll just call it Arkansas Works. The program is the same. And now they're going to figure out a way to sell you a tax cut, and it's really going to be a tax increase. And this is not really speculating anymore. This is a budget problem that we have. Plus, Asa can't quit spending money. So, we've got one more hour coming your way next. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
You're out of time.
No, I mean, this is me. It's the computer. It's an AI. She's listening in. Her initials are MG. Okay, question number 7. Now, I like this next one. Oh, are we on 6?
Yeah, we're on
okay.
6.
Question number 6. Sorry about that. According to the Arkansas.gov website, how many boards does Arkansas state government have? Examples for this would be like the Board of Public Accountancy, Auctioneers Licensing Board. You have to be licensed to be an auctioneer. All right. What do you think,
I'm
Joe?
going with 77 on this one.
You're going with D. All right, sorry,
A,
22, B, 37, C, 51, or D, 77.
Because we've had a conversation with this that we have a lot of licensing boards, more than I think the most out of any state, or we're real close to the highest number in any state, and 77 seems like an absurd amount for no reason.
Okay.
And I think
sound means you're out of time. So.
Yeah, I've already got my answer.
Okay, so you're going with 77. All right, now question number 7. Question number 7 is, according to governing.com, how many full-time equivalent employees did Arkansas state and local government have in the year 2014? Was it A, 12,064, B, 27,891, C, 45,567, or D, 71,048? Full-time equivalent employees, according to Arkansas.gov. Don't need an answer yet, because we haven't heard that sound. 12,000, 27,000, 45,000, or 71,000.
Considering we need so much money to run our government compared to all the states around us, I'm going to go with 71,000.
All right, that sound means you're out of time. 71,000. Question 8, have you subscribed to the Conduit for Action email list? You have. What city do you live in? You live in the town of Jonesboro. What are your results? We're going to go over
Not very good.
How do you know?
I just have a feeling it's not very good.
All right, let's see here. What do we have? 61.5%.
I had a feeling that it was 7 and not 5.
Question number 1. How many state constitutional officers does Arkansas have? You said B, 5.
I had a feeling it was
Correct
7.
answer was 7, C. That sound means that's a wrong answer.
Well, the next one I get partially correct.
Okay, partially correct. Okay. Which of the following constitutional offices for Arkansas. See, which of the following are the constitutional offices for Arkansas?
I didn't know land commissioner was a constitutional office.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we interviewed Tommy Land.
I knew we did.
Land commissioner.
Yeah, I knew. I just didn't remember if it was a constitutional officer or not. I think it was.
Okay. All right. So you got governor right, obviously, attorney general right, land commissioner incorrect. So you picked 4. Okay, I see what you did.
5.
So the wrong one is that you thought that the Chief Justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court was a constitutional officer.
Honestly, I had no idea who my 5th person was going to be from my answer previously.
So now the reason that's wrong, Joe, just logically, is just because
it's
part of the judicial branch, and so it's three equal branches here.
So more of a shot in the dark that was unnecessary.
So you were going to get this wrong because you said that there were 5 constitutional offices, and there's 7.
Yep.
Auditor, treasurer, secretary of state, lieutenant governor, land commissioner, attorney general, governor, and a partridge on a pear tree.
Looking back, auditor seems like a better answer than Supreme Justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court. But treasurer, that's a constitutional office.
Yep, that would be Mr. Dennis Milligan, the treasurer of the state of Arkansas.
Office. Why isn't that just someone's like, you get this job?
Yeah, I know. I really want you to get one right. So what's your next thing?
All right. The next one right.
Who is the head of the Arkansas judicial branch?
No, executive branch, not judicial.
Executive branch. Sorry. You got that one right, Joe. Congratulations. It was the governor, the head of the executive branch. Sorry, that was last week's quiz.
Many people's current dismay.
You got it right. All right, so next question 4. According to the Arkansas.gov website,
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hello, folks. It's hour number 2. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. And I want to appreciate everybody out there being with us. I want to start the first ever segment that is brought to you by Conduit for Commerce. This is a Conduit for Commerce policy spotlight. And they have a new paper out. Tax Reform and Relief Task Force recommendations. So they have a paper. They are recommending certain elements. Now, if history is any indication, I just have to say they're probably all going to be ignored. But here are some of them written by Brenda Vassar-Taylor. It is the objective of Conduit for Commerce to offer to the Tax Reform and Relief Legislative Task Force, for purposes of this segment, I'm going to use the actual word force, recommendations for legislative changes which not only reduce the size and therefore increase economic freedom for all Arkansans, but also modernize and simplify the Arkansas tax code, make the Arkansas tax laws competitive with other states in order to attract businesses to the state, and create jobs within the state and ensure fairness to all individuals and entities impacted by the tax laws of the state of Arkansas. Those are pretty good goals. They even note here these recommendations come from experienced Arkansas tax attorneys, certified public accountants, economists, and small Arkansas manufacturers who live and work in Arkansas. Hey, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and send you this PDF here so you can pull it up so our listeners can follow along. you should have it. Now, how can Arkansas afford to cut taxes? How can Arkansas afford to cut taxes? Before we can have tax reform in Arkansas, it is absolutely necessary that we recognize that in Arkansas we simply budget and spend all we take in. We recognize that fact, that in Arkansas we budget and spend all we take in. Therefore, in Arkansas, as a direct result of the Revenue Stabilization Act, the level of government spending in Arkansas is directly determined by the tax system, not the budget process. If everything that comes in is spent, and that's the way we do things here, then our tax policy is directly linked to how much we spend. While we appreciate that the Revenue Stabilization Act requires that we balance the budget, under the current ABC priority budgeting system, the legislature with help, designs an annual budget that always cries for more money. Under this system, as state dollars come in, needs are met, priority A. Next, the wants, priority B. And in good years, the wish list, priority C, is even filled. Surpluses are also dumped into rainy day funds, or the now unconstitutional General Improvement Fund, guaranteeing all annual revenues go right back out the door. Nothing is saved that they could then say, give it back to us and lower our taxes, and actually shrink government by giving it less money. The fact that the tax system determines revenues as well as spending was illustrated in a recent answer by the Arkansas Bureau of Legislative Research and its RFP BLR 170002 to a prospective tax policy consulting firm with the response that the tax task force, with the assistance of its chosen consultant, will determine the amount of revenue that the state needs to raise for public service. In Arkansas, the partnership of the Revenue Stabilization Act with those seeking more government solutions means there is no getting spending under control in our state as echoed at the federal level. It is merely a question of this: how much do the people of Arkansas want to pay for government? The authors of a recent research paper sponsored by the Mercatus Center, George Mason University, expressed this fact in the following terms. Quote, taxes are the tail that wags the dog in Arkansas budgeting. If taxes are raised, government spending is guaranteed to go up. If taxes are cut, spending is guaranteed to go down. The level of spending is set by the tax system itself. Understanding this fact is crucial to understanding why government spending has increased in Arkansas. In large part, the absolute size of Arkansas spending is determined by the tax system. Therefore, that's end quote. Therefore, if you want spending reduced in Arkansas, if you want smaller government, you simply cut taxes, cut off the flow of money coming in. Now, what we pay and can afford. This is interesting. Listen to this. So if spending is too high, how much do we pay in taxes? Again, citing the Mercatus report, Arkansas uses all major tax instruments available to states, including income, sales, and property taxes, while some of Arkansas's neighbors do not have certain taxes. Notably, Tennessee and Texas have no personal income tax. The overall state and local tax burden is 10.1%. It is the highest among the competitor states, and it is the 17th highest in the nation. Arkansas has the second highest average state and local sales tax rate at 9.3%. The top marginal state income tax rate is 6.9%, the second highest among our competitor states. And two border states have no individual income tax, Texas and Tennessee. The corporate tax rate is also the second highest among Arkansas's competitor states at 6.5%. All these data points show that taxes are high in Arkansas compared with border and competitor states, and even compared with the nation in some cases. It took the Bureau of Legislative Research 192 pages to summarize all 10 categories of taxes in Arkansas for the legislature in October 2016 in its biannual preparation for the general session. These also include the regular taxes and fees not mentioned by Mercatus. It includes not-so-visible taxes like the 2.5% tax on insurance premiums, which yielded over $169 million, a 43% increase in receipts from the previous year, fiscal year June 30th, 2015. It is also worth noting insurance companies, like all big corporations, do not pay taxes. They simply pass on the costs of the tax to the consumer, i.e. the 19.3% increase in insurance premiums recently announced by Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield starting in January 2018. And again, if they made $169 million off of tax and insurance premiums the last time, I guess they can expect a 20% increase in those receipts. Again, the Mercatus report also cites comparisons showing Arkansas spending per capita at $7,674 as the highest spending per capita among the border and comparable states. Scrolling down, Arkansas, this is from the report again, Arkansas spends almost 24% more per capita than the state with the next highest spending, Mississippi. On average, Arkansas spends over 59% more than its competitor states, which spend an average of $4,815 per capita. Compared to its border states, Arkansas still spends 51% more than the average of $5,072. Arkansas still has by far the highest state government spending compared with the competitor states. The amounts for other very poor states, such as Mississippi, do drop significantly, but Arkansas remains at the top. The full group of competitor states spends an average $3,192 per person, and Arkansas spends almost 72% more at $5,481 per person. Spending may be acceptable if one can afford it, and it gets you where you want to be, but Arkansas's gross domestic product per capita trails the national average of $55,295 in 2015. It ranks among the lowest compared to its peers. Another quote from the Mercatus paper, in 2015, Arkansas's per capita GDP of $41,299 trailed the per capita GDP of Texas, Louisiana, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Florida, but exceeded the per capita GDP of Mississippi. Each state in the region except Texas is below the national average. The high overall state spending in Arkansas is most notable for such a poor state. It is time to let the people take charge of their own money to seek a better outcome. Let me stop. I believe that is why people have been voting for Republicans for the last several election cycles, and we haven't seen the reform, the massive reform that this policy paper from Conduit for Commerce is going over. And the next thing that they talk about here is reform, by the way. Two specific reforms. What changes are needed? There's a caveat. One must clearly understand that in no way should legislators consider broadening the tax base or elimination of exemptions unless and until tax rates are significantly cut. Waiting to cut rates while broadening the tax base and eliminating exemptions is simply a tax increase. And that is in red. Do you see that? That is in red for a reason, because that's their game. That's what they want to do. Look at the corporate tax reform. Look at this. Look at this bold statement right here. You think Asa would ever do this? He'd get too much pushback from the liberal media that loves and protects him so much. Totally eliminate the corporate income tax. This income stream is the most volatile and is, in fact, double taxation passed on to the consumer. The state already recognizes reducing taxes on companies increases economic development when it regularly chooses certain companies to give tax giveaways. Pair this with a complete repeal of corporate welfare spending programs, which include state and local incentives. Corporate welfare picks winners and losers, distorts the economy, and shifts current businesses' tax dollars to competing companies. Blatantly unfair. End the corporate welfare quick action closing fund incentive program. End it. Do away with it. Repeal corporate welfare tax subsidies, including Create Rebate, ARC Plus, equity investment tax incentives, research and development credits, and Advantage Arkansas. This will allow local taxing authorities to keep more tax dollars. Eliminate the corporate franchise tax. It stifles growth in business creation in Arkansas. If necessary, increase the initial filing fee when creating the entity to offset some lost revenue. Eliminate sales tax on inventories, which improves competitiveness with other states. Now let's look at the individual income tax. Individual income tax rates reduction and simplify the schedules to a single flat rate of no greater than 4.9%. Continue the current low-income exemptions and deductions. For pass-through business filers, allow complete expensing in year of purchase rather than depreciation. That would be good. Arkansas residents will likely lose the state and local tax deductions at the federal level, which is basically a tax increase on Arkansas residents. That's part of what's going on in D.C. right now. This should be an added deduction on the state level in order to compensate for the increase in tax at the federal level. You hear that? Extend the number of years for a carry forward of a net operating loss. Allow for a carry back for a net operating loss. Freeze spending at last year's level and implement automatic triggers. Now, this is so easy, but it requires real reform. Freeze spending at last year's level and implement automatic triggers for rate reductions to be implemented for the individual income tax rate reductions over no more than a 3-year period as revenue grows. Here are some reforms to avoid, according to Conduit for Commerce. Again, this is the first ever segment brought to you by Conduit for Commerce policy segment, where we're specifically going over policy. You can find this document over at conduitforcommerce.org. Eliminating exemptions without first significantly reducing rates. You don't want to do that. You also don't want to broaden the tax base without first significantly reducing tax rates. You also don't want to have reforms that do not lead to a reduced amount of money going to the government. If it increases it, you don't want to do that. And you want to avoid an internet sales tax or a gas tax increase. You don't want to do that either. Offer to augment tax reform into government spending reform. Recommend a proposed constitutional amendment for a tax expenditure limit to contain government growth. Tie the limit to the growth in inflation plus population growth. Include a tax rebate mechanism automatically triggered at certain thresholds to return revenue collected above the spending limit. A proposal like Colorado's TABOR, Taxpayer Bill of Rights, should be considered as well. Government efficiencies reform. Also, you should implement performance-based budgeting, which I have a feeling we'll get into what that means at a later segment, and implement activity-based cost accounting. Both of those two things would go a long way in reining in our bureaucracies and making them much more accountable to our legislature, i.e. the people, according to me. So 3 who agrees with Conduit for Commerce. Below is a list of the most respected and conservative groups and foundations in the state and nation who spend millions developing good economic tax policies. Guess what? They all agree with our recommendations. The articles on point are referenced in our footnotes. It is certainly hoped that the members of the task force will take the time to build their own knowledge base so that they will have a benchmark to test their own consultant. It is likely that most task forces... It is likely that, like most task forces, this one has a predetermined outcome, but it is hoped that its members will reconsider, meet the challenge, and learn what is at stake. Again, the following are all directly on point with what is discussed under Section 2 above. The Trump Administration, Heritage Foundation, Heartland Institute, American Legislative Exchange Council, the Cato Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, the Tax Foundation, Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, Freedom Works, the Club for Growth, Reason Foundation, recent Arkansas U.S. Senators vote to eliminate deductions for state and local taxes, Arkansas Policy Foundation, and Arkansas's Republican Platform. We got to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Want to go back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never
Only got a
sleeps.
minute and a half here. I want to give a great shout-out to James on Facebook telling me great show. Hey, I appreciate you, James. Also, Alan on Facebook, he writes, I love what you're doing, Mr. Paul Harrell. Well, I love what you're doing, which is listening, consuming the content. Wrapping this up, this policy segment spotlight from Conduit for Commerce, their conclusion is this. It is not a matter of how much we are to spend on government or whether there is a spending problem or a revenue problem. The question is this. How much do the people of Arkansas want to pay for government services? That is all that determines what is spent in our state. The current mood in our country has sent a clear message to Washington, D.C. and to Little Rock. The people want to keep more of their freedoms and more of their own money and want government to have less of it. It will be left to another day to discuss the quality of service Arkansans receive for the money currently being spent. These recommendations for the task force on tax relief and reform are available at conduitforcommerce.org. Back in a moment. Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
How many commissions does Arkansas state government have?
And the Arkansas government continues to push the bounds of what I think.
Yeah, I know. That's true. You chose 42.
But I was in between 42 and 53 because
the correct answer is 53. Yeah. So that's for you. Sorry.
That's no. That's to the Arkansas state government. Boo to you guys for 53 commissions. Unnecessary.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that nuts? Question number 5. According to the Arkansas.gov website, how many departments does Arkansas state government have? You went with the highest number on that one. We have 47 departments in the executive branch.
Again, I say, no. Play the booing sound. Play the booing. Play the booing.
You want the booing?
Yes, because, again, boo on you, Arkansas state government.
Okay. Well, all right, so it's boo on the government, but good for Joe.
Yeah.
All right, question number 6. According to the Arkansas.gov website, how many boards does the Arkansas state government have, like the Public Accountancy Board or the Auctioneers Licensing Board? You chose D, 77. That is correct. 77 boards and licensing authorities. Unbelievable. Of course, the boos go towards the actual Arkansas state government because they are the terrible stewards of the power we've given them.
For those out there who didn't know about this, or we're trying to make a defense that the Arkansas state government was not regulating us. 77 boards for licensing. That's a regulation if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
And it's
just
pretty much
the fact of the number. Yeah.
Yeah, 77,
I like that,
77 licensing boards for different types of jobs for the most part.
You know, why shouldn't they just go ahead and codify it? Like pass a law that says there must be 77. You know what I mean? But I like what you're saying. You're essentially looking at the fact that this is the state, and this is the squandering of an opportunity. Ace has been there for 3 years, and look at that number. That's insane. That's more than the state of New York. That's the statistic, Joe, that you've heard me say before. Yeah. We have more licensing boards than the state of New York. Okay, question number 7. I'm interested in this one. Is amazing. According to governing.com, how many full-time equivalent employees did Arkansas state government have in 2014? You went with a high number. The correct answer was, in fact, D, with 71,048. But
how many of those 71,000?
That is insanely too high, Arkansas state government.
How many of those 71,000 people actually do something?
Well,
Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the program. Phone number 870-275-9799. Call or text 870-275-9799. We have Mark texting in. Says Uber Supreme. Mark in Jonesboro. I don't know. This is a reference. You'll get it if you missed the first hour. You're not going to get this, but basically, Asa has Twitter bots retweeting his tweets, trying to make him look good, and they're these Uber handles that are fake, and they're from Saudi Arabia, and there's Arabic writing under them, and not just one or two, like 30. And there are accounts that have tweeted 4,000 or 5,000 times and have just been created in the month of October this year. Yeah, we kind of busted that. Now, somebody on our Facebook feed said that, Asa is creating jobs. He now has a need for a new social media director of some kind. Folks, have you heard what Jake Files has been into? Many of you have. Senator Jake Files still has not resigned, and yeah, last I checked, he's still mentioned in a sworn FBI affidavit for committing wire fraud. There is a new twist to this story in that the city of Fort Smith, and we told you this, has attempted to audit one of the subjects of a potential crime, that is alluded to in the FBI affidavit mentioning Jake Files, and it has to do with a softball complex. Dave Hughes, writing in the Gazette, headline: State Senator Developer Failed to Keep Promises on Ball Field Project, according to the draft audit. He writes that two men developing the River Valley Sports Complex failed to keep promises and assurances they made when city directors allowed them to start building a multi-field baseball and softball complex on city land, according to the audit. Now, we kind of had this audit a week or two ago. I had the full thing, but I posted the end of it where they referenced the FBI investigation. It appeared that they were kind of not going to investigate the discrepancies any further of Senator Jake Files and what he did because they were looking to the FBI for justice. The whole state is looking to the FBI for justice on a lot of things. They have been investigating. They have done their investigation. I don't know if the FBI is complete. I can just tell you what sources tell me. Everybody's still holding their breath, wondering who it's going to be. Other than the obvious. Back to Jake Files. City directors asked for this audit back in January before voting in February to terminate the city's 3-year relationship with Jake Files and Webb as developers of the River Valley Sports Complex. Now, if you will remember, back when I was down at the Marble Palace doing live broadcasts, bringing you the latest on what the big government politicians were doing, I remember this broke. The initial story on Jake Files was that the city of Fort Smith was wanting to investigate what had happened. And then you had another story, and it started to get more specific because the city of Fort Smith knew who Deanna Gonzalez was. The city of Fort Smith knew that they were instructed by Jake Files to wire the taxpayer money directly to Deanna Gonzalez. And later we find out in the affidavit, several months go by, Deanna Gonzalez tells an FBI agent that Files told her to go open a new account. Files told her to take the money out, the taxpayer money out from Little Rock. Files told her to bring it to him in cash and the other half in a cashier's check. And Files then pocketed the money, according to Deanna Gonzalez, after paying one of his employees like $4,000 and paying her $1,200 for a reimbursement and another $1,500 for a Christmas bonus. In total, we're talking $26,000 of taxpayer money that Jake Files stole for himself and used a potential project as a reason for needing the money. So now we are here in the present, and the audit report by the city's internal audit department also included 12 recommendations for city directors to follow when considering approval of such projects in the future, because it's been such a complete disaster and boondoggle. I think citizens of Fort Smith would inquire: does this go more broader? Does this go deeper into city government than just Jake Files? I certainly would be asking that question. But let me pause here before we get to Senator Files' comments on this. He still hasn't resigned from office. Asa Hutchinson hasn't called for his resignation. Doyle Webb and the Arkansas Republican Party haven't called for his resignation. Asa Hutchinson right now is more worried about fake Twitter bots retweeting his cover stories for tanking poll numbers. He's lost 17 points since April among Republican voters. His approval rating is down 59%. 17 points from April. He's more concerned about bullying county chairman than he is about getting Jake Files out of the party to try to save what reputation they have left for being able to claim the moral high ground. You don't get to steal from us and stay in a position that's supposed to convey honor and respectability, even though we know that politicians don't live up to that a lot of times. You're not going to steal and get away with it. You're not going to falsify bids in other contractors' names and get away with it. Unless this is some grand conspiracy, you need to go. Of course, we know why, in all probability, Jake Files hasn't resigned. It would necessitate a special election, and current elected office holders wouldn't be able to run for the seat. Current elected office holders that have been picked to succeed Jake Files. There is a perverse incentive for Jake Files to remain in this position and serve, end quote, the city of Fort Smith, so that we can protect who gets the power the next time, who gets to fill the seat the next time. City internal auditor of Fort Smith, Tracy Shockley, did not respond to requests last week for comment on the audit. In a statement released Friday, Files and Webb said, quote, now here's the statement. This is unbelievable to me, but here's the statement. Quote, the draft audit is full of inconclusive information and many inaccuracies. There has been little or no effort from the city staff to reach the truth, and we have not been contacted by them at all. Similar to the recycling fiasco and consistent mismanagement of departments. Now, that recycling fiasco, I am aware of listeners in Fort Smith listening on The Marshall, KFPW 1230 AM and 96.7 FM out of Fort Smith. I'm familiar with the recycling. I'm not as familiar as I need to be, but I'm aware of the city's failings in that. Jake Files goes on. City Administrator Carl Gefkin and his staff have presented details that were not accurate to both the Board of Directors and the citizens of Fort Smith. With the pending and possibly future litigation, we are not at liberty to comment further, but we do believe there is a concerted effort to both discredit and malign both this project and us as individuals, end quote. These guys refuse to admit they were wrong. This project is in shambles. These men were paid for work that was never done, and this doesn't even begin to get into the FBI investigation on how Jake Files got that $26,000 from you and me for himself. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The 7-page draft audit concluded with a statement that the department had not received all the information requested. Additional work and documents could lead to the identification of other significant problems, including possible violations of the law. Quote, however, since federal law enforcement agencies are now involved in investigating the project, there would appear to be little or no benefit from internal audit expending additional time on this project. City directors agreed in March 2014 to give Senator Files and Webb $1.6 million for this project. Files and Webb assured the board that they could complete the project, estimated to cost $4 to $6 million, with donations and in-kind contributions of labor and materials. None of that happened. None of it happened. Let's keep going down. In another example in the audit, the Fort Chaffee. Am I saying that right? Chaffee? You have to forgive me. That is geographical ignorance, I will admit. It's like when people over in my neck of the woods pronounce the THE in Blytheville. It's not Blytheville, it's Blytheville. The Fort Chaffee Redevelopment Authority offered to donate shale, but records showed the developers paid $7,000 to Don Shoemake for shale and took none of the free shale. The audit said the internal audit department in Fort Smith did substantial work on the transaction in which Fort Smith paid $26,945 from a General Improvement Fund grant to contractor Deanna Gonzalez for installation of a water line at the complex. She doesn't know anything about installing water lines. An FBI search warrant affidavit filed in August says Files submitted 3 fictitious bids for the waterline work so Fort Smith could receive the $46,500 in General Improvement Fund money, authorized by Files as a state senator for District 8. Gonzalez, an employee of Files, was the low of the 3 bids and was awarded the job. The audit said Files admitted he prepared and submitted all 3 bids for the waterline work and later asked if he could get legitimate bids and resubmit them. Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know he asked if he could get legitimate bids later and resubmit them. Now, thankfully, that little John Woods ethics rule, well, if you find out about it and correct it in 30 days, everything's fine. I don't know if that applies here. I hope it. I don't think it does. Somebody tells me this has nothing to do with campaign finance expenditures. Just so you know, if there's a huge campaign finance inconsistency, I mean a big one where you've, for a long time, Arkansas law says as long as they go back and correct it, everything will be fine ethically. It's preposterous. According to the affidavit, Deanna Gonzalez told the FBI that Files told her to open a bank account so the city could send her $26,945. At Files' instruction, the affidavit said Gonzalez wrote 2 cashier's checks in the amount on the account to FFH Construction totaling $25,931.91. Gonzalez told the FBI she watched as Files counted out $4,805 as payment to employees, gave Gonzalez $1,900 reimbursement and $1,500 Christmas bonus. Then Gonzalez told officials she saw Files put the rest of the money in his pocket, according to the affidavit. Work on the water line was never done. Asa Hutchinson hasn't called for this man's resignation. That silence that you hear is coming from the governor's mansion. To date, as requested by the city, Ms. Gonzalez has not returned any of the monies advanced to her. In addition to the water line, the audit said Gonzalez was paid for concession stand and masonry work. Masonry. Quote, to date, as requested by the city, Ms. Gonzalez has not returned any of the money. According to outside engineers, the masonry work and materials used are of poor quality, workmanship, and poor visual quality, or not done to the developer's plans and considered a major concern. Unreal. Jake Files is still a senator serving District 8 and the people of Fort Smith. This is interesting. Listen to this. When the Internal Audit Department questioned them about the invoices they submitted for their work at the sports complex, they said they did not submit invoices and didn't know how much was charged. So listen, let me back up here. 2 men identified as contractors who worked on the concession stands said they worked for Files. Files sent them to work at the sports complex, according to the audit. On returning to work at FFH Construction, they turned in their time and later received checks from the sports complex. When the Internal Audit Department questioned them about the invoices they submitted for their work at the complex, they said they didn't submit invoices and didn't know how much was charged. When informed of the amounts on the invoices, they said the amounts were more than they would have charged. The audit said Webb and Files purchased salvaged storm drain pipes for the government. They had significant damage caused by... Now, let's back up. So, what happened to the extra money? If the invoice was more, and they got... What happened to the extra money? I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's very, very embarrassing. For the Republican Party of Arkansas, in my opinion, that this hasn't happened yet, that he has not resigned yet. Anyway, this is the latest, and we, of course, know that, Jake Files is still fighting this. Jake Files is still saying this whole thing is an effort to malign me. I mean, in some ways, maybe you admire him not giving up, I guess. I mean, maybe this really is like a one-armed man situation and, 2 contractors, an employee, and a city administrator are working together to get their story straight to frame him. And in reality, just Jake Files is the most unlucky businessman in the world ever, and he's completely innocent of anything in any of this. I mean... And that would mean the FBI is wrong and that an FBI agent committed perjury. That would mean that an FBI agent has perjured himself when he swore in that affidavit to apply for the search warrant to seize Jake Files' computers and phones. Telephone number 870-275-9799. We're going to take a break. Back in a moment.
If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. I'm sorry, Bob, the new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government,
better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patients will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. Oh, man, that's pretty funny, Joe. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. Let's see.
Should I tell him my joke?
The joke. Oh, is this a Halloween joke? What is this?
Well, it's a pirate joke.
Okay. All right.
Paul?
Yes.
What is a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
Aye, but his first love was the sea.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, touche. I'm not going to be able to touche. Oh, yeah. Notice Joe and I didn't dress up for Halloween. Hey, you know what? Next year, Joe, we need to dress up for Reformation Day and just wear 1500s era clothing.
Yeah, I call Martin Luther.
Okay.
I don't know who you're going to dress up as.
I don't know. I'll dress up as the angry
you
Roman Catholic Church.
Well, you can be the door.
I'll be the door. I'll be the door. And you could be Martin Luther. In the first hour, we did do a tribute to Reformation Day. By the way, happy Reformation Day. We haven't really mentioned Halloween much except for the top of the show, but it is quite fascinating to look at the history of Reformation Day. Obviously, this past Sunday was Reformation Sunday. A lot of people were talking about what happened, and it was a big point in history. It really was.
No, okay. So this is back on the topic of Halloween that we didn't dress up.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, the listening audience, I did suggest to Paul that he dress up like Dan Douglas for the show.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
did suggest it.
I almost did it. It just came down to maybe next year. It came down to a logistics issue. So okay. So in order for me to be Dan Douglas, okay, I've got the mustache, but the whole beard would have to go, and I just don't know if I want to walk around with a mustache for the amount of time it would take to grow everything back. Number one. Number two, you're going to have to find, in order to do it right, you would really need to find a good white wig somewhere, and that's going to be expensive. And so I don't know, whatever. Maybe we can do it. Maybe we'll do it sometime. Maybe, you never know. Maybe Dan Douglas will get to guest host the entire program one day. But then you got to dye. I got to dye my mustache white, But I could do it. I could dress up as Dan Douglas.
Rick on Facebook said he ain't got the body.
So I don't have the body. I wear Wrangler blue jeans. All right. I wear Wrangler blue jeans. It's the same pair of jeans, one bought at Tractor Supply, the other bought online. The same pair of jeans on the same fat body. That's where that comes from. All right. I'm not going to play it. Don't worry, Facebook Live audience. Trust me. They don't like it. They don't like the Dan Douglas music montage. Do what?
Were they concerned that we were going to play it? Because I know that Rick does.
No,
Rick doesn't like it.
I think Gary. It's Gary on Facebook that's always like, "Don't play the Dan Douglas. Whatever you do, don't play the Dan Douglas."
Well, I think Gary and Rick both.
They're just sick of it. It's like they don't. Anytime I mention it, they're like, "Don't do it. Don't you play it." It's too good though. He sets up. There's never been a legislator to set up bookends talking about Led Zeppelin, Shania Twain. I mean. Trying to pass a tax increase.
Just very few legislators make it easy for us to do our job better.
Yeah,
the way Dan Douglas does.
Dan Douglas,
in the way Dan Douglas,
some of the best audio ever on
absolutely.
radio.
In the way Dan Douglas sets us up to do our job and make our job better.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. We owe you a lot.
Very few other.
I just wish you'd quit trying to take money from the people. Folks, partner with us on Patreon, $5, $10, $25. It's patreon.com/thephp. Become a Conduit Media Insider for $25 a month and get your Liberty Machine t-shirt. See you tomorrow.